Today is all about the US Capitol, Washington, D.C., named after Christopher Columbus and the first president of the United States. You can see the significance this district has on the country. It's the home of the White House, the US Capitol, and the Lincoln Memorial, but outside of this political bubble, there is a much darker side to this place. I'm your host Andrew, and I did some deep research to find out the top 10 District of Columbia scary urban legends. At a number 10 spot, we have the Octagon House. This building is considered to be the most haunted home in all of DC, and after reading about this, I think it could be one of the most haunted places in North America. It was built by Colonel John Taylor back in the year 1801. The builder had its close connections to the presidents, and after the White House burned in 1812, President James and Dolly Madison lived there for a temporary time. Now it's claimed that the entire house is haunted by the daughters of Colonel John Taylor. His first daughter passed away before the War of 1812, and the other ones passed away shortly after the year 1817. They are known to follow visitors around until they decide to leave the house altogether. As well, the house has been said to hold slaves back in the day, and many say the spirits of these slaves still remain inside of the house. There used to be a ring inside of the building to call the slaves, but after the War of 1812, the bell would seem to be ringing non-stop. In another instance, a gambler was even shot on the 3rd floor of this building, and many visitors claim they still see his lifeless body on the bed during some nights. At a number 9 spot, we have the St. Elizabeth Psychiatric Hospital. Opening in 1855, St. Elizabeth was the first federally operated psychiatric hospital in the United States, and at the time, it would house as many as 8,000 patients. Over the years, many people came to this hospital for treatment of their mental illnesses, as well as to house many of the wounded during the Civil War. However, by the 1950s, the hospital was under heavy criticism for the way they treated their patients, which caused many to pass away there as well. Then over the years, they would begin to lose more and more patients until temporarily closing down in 2002. Now that the east side of the campus has a new facility with new patients, many workers have claimed that it's one of the most haunted places in DC. Overnight staff workers claim to hear constant groaning sounds in the places of the hospital that aren't being used. And also as well, many people claim to see the spirit of Dr. Walter Freeman, who can be seen in the morgue performing lobotomies, considering he was one of the pioneers of the psychosurgery. At number 8 spot, we have the Congressional Cemetery. The Congressional Cemetery, or the Washington Parish Burial Ground, was established all the way in 1807, and nowadays it has as many as 65,000 graves occupying the grounds. This number alone should tell you that you may feel the presence of more than a few entities in this area. One notorious ghost spotted in the area is Civil War photographer Matthew Brady. Story goes that the Congress promised him money to take war photos, but when he brought them the photos, they never ended up paying him, not even $1. So in the end, he died with nothing to his name. Nowadays, he terrorizes the graves of the government officials who denied him compensation, and if you try to take a photo of his ghost, you'll find that your device is now broken. Over the years, this place has gone through many different grave robbers, which led to many disturbed spirits scattered around the entire cemetery. So, for a warning, visit this place at your own risk. At number 7 spot, with the Omni Shoreman Hotel. This grand hotel was built in 1930, and ever since its opening, there has been hundreds of reports from visitors claiming to see something supernatural within. It all started when one of the hotel's financial partners named Henry Doherty moved his entire family from what is now known as Suite 870. On their first night, their maid Juliet Brown called the hotel desk in a panic to tell them that she wasn't feeling good, but then before anyone could get to her room, she just passed away. Soon after, Mr. Doherty's wife and daughter would pass away. This would make Henry distraught, leaving the hotel with that suite being unoccupied for the next 50 years. Then, when Henry's apartment was converted into a hotel suite and reopened, staff and guests would claim to hear the sounds of faint voices coming from the dark corners of the room. And many reported that around 4 a.m., all the electronics inside of the room, including the lights and the TV, would aggressively flicker for a short time period. Now the room has been called the Ghost Suite, and I dare any of you guys to try a night at this place if you're in the area. At number 6 spot, we have Escaping Alcatraz. Frank Morris was surprisingly an intelligent criminal with an IQ of over 130. He was born in Washington, D.C., and his parents abandoned him when he was only 11 years old, so he spent the rest of his childhood in foster homes. He was convicted of his first criminal offense at 13, and by his late teens had been arrested for crimes ranging from narcotic possession to armed robbery. He spent most of his early years in jail serving lunch to prisoners. The odd thing is that Morris was reportedly ranked in the top 2% of the general general population in intelligence. He was measured by the IQ testing and he got a score of 133. He served time in Florida and Georgia, then escaped from the Louisiana State Penitentiary while serving 10 years for bank robbery. He was recaptured a year later while committing another burglary and sent to Alcatraz on January 20th, 1960 as inmate number AZ-1441. He was part of the infamous 5-person crew who managed to escape Alcatraz. The crew used a raft made of raincoats and fake heads they sculpted during their time there to just trick all the guards. In the hump of our list, we have the Old Brick Capitol. This building once stood where the USS Supreme Court building stands, so it has a very rich history associated with it. The Old Brick Capitol was built in 1815 and was used as a temporary Capitol building for the United States. Throughout its time, it also served as a private school, a prison, and a boarding house during the Civil War. During its time as a prison, it was one of the most abusive ones. It had poor living conditions, and most of the prisoners were far more depressed than in any other prison in the world. This lack of care and attention caused many prisoners to pass away in the process, so it's no surprise that many came back as vengeful spirits. Visitors to the land report hearing banging on metal bars and distant cries of former convicts pleading for their lives. Many of the people can hear a person crying throughout their entire visit. Despite being kind of annoying, I don't think you would be brave enough to tell a person to stop doing this, especially if it's a full-fledged ghost. At number 4 spot, we have the British soldier Firestarter. It was during the War of 1812 that the Great Burning of Washington occurred. In this attack, many important buildings in the capital were burned down, including the White House, then called the Presidential Mansion. Then things got unexpectedly worse for the British. As the US government fled the White House, the British thought victory was near. But then a grand-scale thunderstorm alongside a tornado swept the entire area around the White House, killing both British soldiers and American civilians in the process. If you can imagine a Michael Bay movie, that's exactly how I picture this scene going down. Now, it's said that a lonesome British soldier whose garments date all the way back to the 1800s appears on the White House lawn every now and again. It's said that the soldier is still roaming around the lawn of the White House with a rather large torch, almost as if the flame was eternal. At number 3 spot, we have Mary Todd Lincoln. Wife of Abraham Lincoln, Mary Todd Lincoln was said to have practiced spiritualism in the White House frequently. Influenced by the death of her second son, spiritualism was practiced by Mary to communicate with him and others she held dear in the afterlife. She would report speaking to her late son daily and would conduct seances within the walls of the White House. As word broke out, desperate families would come to her seeking the unknown. And in the midst of the Civil War, many widowed wives came to her in order to speak to their husbands. Mary would begin to notice strange things in the White House, such as hearing stomping and swearing in the room of former President Andrew Jackson, known as the Rose Room. At number 2 spot, we have the Demon Cat. Spotted time and time again around the White House, the Demon Cat takes on many different variations, 2 different people appearing as a normal-sized cat to some and as large as an elephant to others. The Secret Service has reported seeing paw prints around the White House, which is surprising since no pets are allowed in this White House. The weird thing is that the cat only appears during a presidential switch or a national tragedy. Basically, we can call it the bearer of bad news, and potentially this is where we get the idea of an unlucky black cat. At a number 1 spot, we have an Illuminati influenced street design. When people begin to look at Washington DC from a bird's eye view, many have realized that the street designs incorporates the use of occult symbols, including an inverted pentagram with the bottom pointing directly at the White House. An anti-Masonic Christian named Ed Decker said, quote, "The satanic pentagram under which the White House sits is an open door through which Satan has access to our president." So the person who designed the streets was a visionary planner named Pierre-Charles L'Enfant. And to many, he was considered to be a Freemason or at least part of the Illuminati. However, after deeper research, I found that he was inspired by the city of Karlsruhe, Germany, so he didn't take inspiration from any other group. Anyways, many parts of the street resemble Christian crosses as well, so easily another conspiracy theory could be made. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong and he is related to some sort of satanic group. And these are the top 10 District of Columbia scary urban legends. What do you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with some of your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this video for some more content. I'm your host Andrew, and I hope you guys have a scary day.